Anywho's, welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Fernandez.
Ahoy,
Styling.
hoy.
I got the white headphones back because I found a new cable. That's right. Now it's blue, so it can't be tossed out or lost with any other cable. But anyways, joining me tonight, he's got T Swift in his earbuds and Victoria's Secret in his pants. It's Robert Wyatt.
Hey, whatever it takes.
That's quite the combination.
I know when Donitza listens to the show because she's like, did Robert get his headphones things fixed so he could listen to like Taylor Swift? And then I was just like, what the heck? Like, I do the show, I record the show, I post the show. I don't keep a strong mental checklist on what's been talked about and what's not been talked about. And I'm like, what the crap are you talking about? And she goes, oh, he wanted to get like T Swift on the show on his headphones. I was like, oh yeah, I don't know.
Nothing but love. Nothing but love. Denise, I am working on that, and still trying to figure out if I want to get the walkers or just plunk down the $1,200 and change out to the new custom ear protection.
What
100 versus 1200.
Or go to Costco, get the Raycon or the Samsung Galaxy Buds, the new Samsung Galaxy Buds, and just leave them in your range bag because they're small. You can put them in. Then you just put your muffs over them.
Yeah, the downside of that is the
because the AirPods won't do it.
The AirPods won't do it. The ones that I have won't do it because they're a little bit too long for the Howard lights that I have, and so I got to get a different set anyway. And when they're turned on, you get this weird audio interference between the two. So you have to, one of them has to be off. So if like you have the Howard lights with the thing.
The Galaxy Pros are nice because like mine, you just hold it and you'll turn off the extra, like the microphone that picks up the ambient sound. You just turn that off. So you just get the track that's playing inside there, so it seals pretty well, so you won't get the double feedback. So
yeah, the downside of the walkers is just that the audio is not great. That's the downside.
The digital audio on the walkers is, I mean, it's digital. It's digital audio. I mean, but like
it sounds like I'm talking to somebody with a walkie-talkie.
Mine are pretty clear when I have them on clear voice. Like they actually sound pretty good. The only issue with the walkers is one, they kill their battery so fast. The build quality is not as nice as something like the Peltors, and they cannot help but just microphone feedback off of each other if you're not careful. And then they'll just microphone feedback and they'll amplify, and the battery will just drain down on the XLs. So.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, if you're going to listen to Taylor Swift, you got to have audio that's good enough so that you can hear the crisp highs and the lows. I mean, it's not worth it if you're just going to listen, to some like talking through a garbage can kind of music.
So your problem is that people make all these electronic earphones to hear what's around them in case someone tries to kill them. And like what you want to do is like I want to be able to shoot guns. This is like the most first world problem. I want to be able to shoot poor people while listening to my music, so that way, like, I feel better about it. Do you understand?
Well, that way, when you're on trial, you'll have some really nice memories. You'll have the visual of shooting the people, and you'll have Taylor Swift, singing about her wildest dreams.
It's not an ego issue. It has nothing to do with that. I just want to live in my own music video. Can I do that? Can I do that, please?
I am so down with this.
You know what you just need to do, Robert? You just need to get a pair of old school wired headphones. An old school pair of wired headphones, because you know what? Because when people go to record you with your camera, it's probably going to stop the audio anyway.
Shit.
That's actually why I quit recording myself.
I didn't record anything yesterday.
I don't want to carry a spare phone just so I can listen to music and then record myself.
Robert literally needs to take a time travel back to 2006 and get an iPod Shuffle.
I have one.
I have two. Fill it with only Taylor Swift.
She is actually on.
and then just run some headphones under his shirt, and then when it's time to go, plug them in, drop the over the ears over them. No microphone to feedback on. Not like you could probably buy the finest, like Bose quality wired headphones with no microphone. Somebody probably makes a banging pair of those and just run it to an iPod Shuffle.
I have one of those as well. Okay, I'm
I think
picking
this
up
is
what you're putting down, Tommy.
because as soon
this
as
is pretty good.
as soon as somebody presses record, it's gonna be like, "Where's T? Where's T Swift at?" And it's just like, "Oh no, I can't have it all." But now you can have it all, and all it's gonna take you is wearing like 6 different electronic devices on your body to live your fantasy.
I don't see a problem here like at all. I think we have a workable solution with this.
I think you should also put the iPod on your armband. You know, they used to do that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I get the
Really get rocking it.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, but I have that old school it was the iPod Shuffle. It's just that little thing. It's only about like inch and a half by inch and a half. You can just clip that right to your lapel,
Yep.
run it in.
Just
I like the way this direction is going.
Yeah, this is turning into a literally probably paying you option. Also joining me tonight, Post Malone's USPSA shooting, child support dodging alter ego. It's Kenny Terry.
Most of that's true. Most of that's true.
We need to get some more face tats on you. I think if you got face tatted up with Post Malone losing some weight, you guys could probably play each other a little bit. You know,
I mean, he lives in Utah.
He lives in Utah and he loves his guns. That's the one thing. Like, I got to start listening to some Post Malone because
one of my clients, like, their house like looks right across the canyon at his.
Yeah, like he seems like a fun guy. He loves machine guns. Like I think he's pretty fun.
I just think it's weird because I'd only ever seen pictures of that guy, and then I actually heard a song that he did, and then he's like, yeah, that's Post Malone. And I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Look it up. I'm like,
looks nothing like his music.
That's nothing. That's not even the same guy. He's really, he got a really great voice, and then you see him, you're like, I did not place that one.
Putting things in the wrong place, not placing things correctly. So this is my Gen 3 Glock 17 with the 34 slide and barrel on it, and it found itself on the ground yesterday. Mr. Kepler Kramer, what Kep tell you, Kenny?
He said, "Did you hear about Tom dropping his gun?" And I went, "He dropped his gun?" He goes, "Yeah, make him talk about it on the show." So I haven't heard the story yet.
And so, not to be dodging anything, just on the notes, number one thing for me to discuss is my dropped gun because, of course, you can't pickpocket a naked man. So if anyone goes, "Did you hear about Tom Nelson dropping his gun?" It's like, yeah, I heard it from him on his own show, recorded. I played it back. So anyway, I shot concealment. I've shot the last 2 matches concealment. And so match before I ran my 17 that has the hockey tape on it, so it's actually pretty comfortable. This one I ran the silicone carbide grip, and normally it hasn't bugged me, but it was robbing me raw through most of the day. And so what I was doing is I had an appendix, and then I was taking my t-shirt and putting my t-shirt in between the gun and my stomach, so it wouldn't be rubbing raw, and I'm just walking around ROing and doing administrative things.
Tom, are you getting raw dogged?
Yeah, I was getting raw dogged. Exactly. Not even with the soft kisses on my neck either.
You're showing up to a USPSA match with a gun in a conceal carry holster.
Yeah.
But you're using a competition setup to do that.
Oh, this thing's straight for the streets. This is
Robert. Let's not wrap your head around.
I'm going to shoot this in an IDPA match. I wanted to shoot like an IDPA match, and I wanted to shoot the gun, and I was going to use the rig I was going to use. Like, I've been using Glocks in this appendix rig all year. So anyways, I'm getting up, and I'm about to be, like, I'm on deck, but I have not been called to make ready. And so everyone's back from the line, and Kepler's about to come up and tell me, or Tyrell's about to tell me, hey, make ready. And so what I'm doing is, like, I grab my shirt, and I pull my shirt up to get it over the gun, and it grabs the silicone carbide and a little bit, and it just flops the gun onto the ground. So, like, plop, and, like, maybe, like, 3 of us sat there and saw it, and I was just kind of, like, laughing. I was like, ha! I dropped my gun. I was like, Cap, come get it. I'm not touching it. Come get it. So it's, like, not under the make ready command, like anything else. And so Kepler comes and grabs it, and he goes...
That's when Kepler looks over, and he sees the gun falling, and all of a sudden he's like, make ready!
So got him. So he cams over, he picks it up, and of course, I got to blow all the dust off of it and everything like that. And I go to load it, and I'm like, there's like rocks in there, and so I got to like clear out the rocks and get all the rocks out of the gun. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things. And if it was any other time, I knew at that point Tyrell Kelsey was also ready to go home. So if it was any worse situation, I would have worked at like Ty, let's roll, and then we would have gotten out of there. But yeah, it just plopped, just literally fell out, plopped out. So I stopped doing that for the rest of the day because technically at that point it was unsafe to put my shirt in between that in case anything else happened. But yeah, it plopped out. I dropped. It took me what is it? It took me 14 years to drop a gun in competition. So it wasn't.
Well done.
Yeah, yeah. It's like anything. It's just you do it enough times, and eventually something's going to happen. I'm happy it wasn't
it's
loaded.
like, if you're not having NDs, are you really training?
So yeah, it was just one of those things. But like during that match, like I was having a good match. I played around with the practice score thing last time. It was just like, you're not that fast. You're not going to get much faster. Don't think about speed and just shoot good points. Because practice score will tell you, hey, if you shot all the points with your time, this would be your stage percentage. And what do you know? It goes up like 15% if you just collect as many alphas as you can in minor scoring. And so I went there, and by the end of 5 stages, I had 5 Charlies for the day, and I was shooting pretty much exactly kind of the way I wanted to. I didn't feel like I was going too slow, and I ended up the day with having a much better result than I did last time, and then feeling like going into this IDPA match where points down is going to be a big issue. Feeling pretty good and pretty confident with it, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I collected 11 Charlies for the whole match, and 5 or 6 of those Charlies were on the last par time stage, which had a 6-second par time, and so I was just trying to shoot as many targets as I can while I could do it, and you collected some Charlies on the way there, but I Delta and Mike free and just felt really good about it.
Well done.
So it's
That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty fun. It's kind of one of those things where you sit there and you look at it and you go like, when you shoot a Mike or a Delta, you kind of go back and you look at it and go like, oh, that was perfectly in my control not to do that, but I did it anyway. And so it's just like, I will just shoot in control the whole time and not care about speed, and like try to come up with a good stage plan and shoot it. And so I was pretty happy, and I'm sure if I had hopped on earlier and was in your guys' squad, I would not be able to do that, because I would have saw the way that you guys attack stages and the way that you guys did the plans, and something would have told me to go faster, push, look at what Kenny just did, look at what Robert just did, look what Brett just did.
Oh no. I shot stages that were decidedly different than what everybody else did. But it was fun. It was fun just to try them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
there was 2 stages in particular that were arguably the wrong way to shoot it, but I was like, I'm just gonna try it. I mean, I didn't care, but yeah, it was fun. It was a fun match. I mean, I broke my primary Shadow 2, which was unfortunate.
Is this which one? Hold on a second.
Did you really break it though?
That's actually, Kenny. That's actually what I was just thinking. It's like, did I really break it? No, this one right here.
Okay, so this is not the hard chrome.
No. On the first stage, we had the classifier. I went through, shot the classifier just fine, and got to then. We roll over to what would be our stage 2, but stage 1, and go up. Kenny's like, make ready, insert the magazine, rack the slide, and the gun basically won't go into battery, and the bullet is stuck right up in the chamber. It won't actually chamber. Like, that's weird. Insert the magazine out, try it again, won't go up in. Okay, that's really weird. Grab another magazine, shove that in there, still won't go. And then I'm like, okay, Kenny, hang on a second. So he, unload so clear. I walk back. They take another shooter, and I went through, and I had loaded some different bullets. It was a new batch of bullets, and so I was like, maybe I screwed up on the loading, and I'm feeling the case mouth, and I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't get the crimp out of it. And so I go and I dug into my stuff, and I found all of my previous loading. Come back up to the line, try it again, still doesn't work. And then Ben, he goes and he's like, do you want to try my gun? I'm like, okay, sure. So we kind of do the swap, and I insert my magazine, and it immediately just chambers the round. I'm like, what the F? And so I'm like, okay, it's probably the extractor because it's not going up underneath the extractor. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, and at that point, I'm like, well, I'll just go home. And I was like, no, I have my backup gun because I actually brought it that day. So they're like, go get your gun. Walk all the way back to the truck. I had to get Blake on the phone or on the radio, and it's like, hey, I need to swap a gun. He's like, same gun? Yeah, same gun. So I change it out, come back, finish, shoot the match. Go home, and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to say I had to clean the gun, because, and so I waited till really late because I was putting it off. But I take the slide off, pull the barrel out, look down
the
look down in the barrel.
right, the extract, there's something in the extractor on the CZ75s that has to be clean, or else it won't let the extractor have any play. Is that correct?
No, not in this case.
Okay. But that is
So
something that does happen with the CZ75s, right? That you have to keep
they're usually pretty reliable. I mean, unless you get something really jammed up in there, there's enough spring to let it work its way out. But pull the slide off, pull the barrel out, and then I set the barrel down, and I look down. I'm playing with the extractor, and it looks fine. Finally, I pick up the barrel, look at the barrel, and there's a bullet stuck in there. And I'm like, well, shit.
That'll do, pig.
Yeah.
That'll do.
My best guess, talking to Kenny, is probably on the unload show clear of the last stage. When I went to eject the round out, it must have stripped the case and the bullet and left the bullet in there. And then I kind of confirmed that because at that point I had to clean the gun anyway, because I was looking at it and there's unburnt powder all over inside the housing. I'm like, yeah, that had.
So
to be
when you unload show clear, do you just kick the round out on the ground and just not care about it, or do you like collect the round?
Okay, so normally I'll turn the gun so that the ejection port's down because I'm left-handed, and I'll drop it into my hand. But it wasn't coming, and so I usually just palm strike it out.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it because I didn't catch it at that point, and cleared the gun out. It was easy as could be, and you couldn't really see it. I mean, even if the RO was looking down inside, it was deep enough inside of the chamber that you probably wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
And so
while you're loading it, you're just hammering it, pushing it farther. You're pushing it in. You're knocking the bullets that are trying to push it in back farther into the case, and it's just like there's.
The worst part is like it wasn't so far in that the round even started to go in the chamber, but it wasn't so far back. Like it was right at that spot that it surely looked like it just wasn't sliding behind the ejector.
Yeah.
Or the extractor, I mean.
Yeah, it was a strange thing. I mean, fortunately, I finished the match, but it was just such an odd thing. But on the plus side, this gun is now it's clean, it was oiled, and I put grease where it needed to be, and I put new springs and everything into it. So this thing's good for at least another 2 years.
Make sure the optics on tight. That's the other thing we gotta just get the
I will say
steel wrench out.
Good on Robert for how all that shit happened on that stage, and he still laid down a solid run afterwards.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
It was a nice day. It was a lot better than last week. So that was fun. It was a fun day.
It was a kind of interesting match in the fact that it was very much a.
There's too few rounds though. It was too low of a round count.
Well, it was a weird thing because it was a very low round count, but there was a lot of stages that had a lot of a backup on them because of the way that the match kind of laid out. Like, so it's just like you can have low round counts, but you can have stages interact with each other so the flow doesn't go as well. But I didn't mind having the lower round count stages. I thought they were still pretty good stages.
I think the lower the round count, the more negative events just compound more quickly, and it becomes that much harder to claw your way back out of anything.
Yep.
And so it kind of sucks. But you are right though. It does speak to a larger point that round count in a match is not nearly as important as stage flow, because you can have low round count stages And if they don't flow through, then you're just sitting there, you're like for 20, 30 minutes of like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And so it's funny.
Well, I
Kenny,
mean,
what?
you nailed it on the head, Robert. Like with on a 12-round stage, that's a 9 hit factor, like a 3/10 of a mistake, it can hurt you. I mean,
Yeah.
it can hurt you a lot.
Yeah. And in a lot of cases, it's everything you could do to try and claw your way back. And in most cases you can't.
Yeah. Yep.
What did you shoot, Kenny? Did you shoot open? Did you shoot limited?
I shot limited, and I have not touched that limited gun since Red Rock last year. So shot Red Rock, won it, put the gun in the safe. Friday night, I was like, I don't have enough open ammo. We're gonna shoot the limited gun.
Oh, Clay hasn't given me enough open ammo to shoot his gun in open. What am I gonna
Clay,
do?
give me more ammo.
Dad,
So I
you
pulled the
got
limited gun
you got
out,
you got
decided we're gonna
bullets.
shoot it.
Right on.
And yeah, not touching a limited gun in a year. I've either shot a carry optics gun or an open gun since Red Rock. Limited gun's recoil. Like, yeah, so
that's a new feeling for you there, isn't it? There.
I mean,
Like, you have to actually grip this gun.
Yeah,
it took me a couple stages. Like, hey, grip that.
yeah.
Thing.
It doesn't drive itself back down. The dot doesn't just stay centered on whatever you're. It's like it's the same thing that I was talking about when you have like you go shoot this for 30,000 rounds, then you go grab your HK-45 and you take the first 2 shots out of. You're like, oh no, this is different. Grab it an aim, grab harder, harder, please.
And I know this isn't like actually true, like time wise, it's not true. But I was telling Mark Walkie that like I felt like I was letting the limited gun settle forever on the next shot.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the splits, it's not true. But behind the gun, you're just like, gosh, this thing is taking forever to settle down. Like, but yeah, it did not start good. Like,
Yeah.
That's funny.
Not good. Don't touch a gun for a year and then go shoot old ammo, dirty gun, everything. Like, first stage, shot a miss. Called the miss way too late to even think about making it up. Second stage was part-time stage. Called a bad shot. In my mind, I just immediately sent another one because I called a bad shot.
That's what you were upset about.
It was Virginia camp, correct?
Yeah, you
too,
you
right?
walked off that stage as a very unhappy person. I'm
Yeah,
like, what just happened?
Part-times are Virginia count. And like as soon as I did it, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Finish the stage, look over the target. What I called was a bad shot was also an alpha, so I have 3 alpha.
So
and
you
I'm
get
eating 2 penalties.
So you get the extra shot penalty, and then you get the old wanted extra hit penalty on top of those. That's great.
Yeah, so part-time, whatever your hit factor is match points, right?
Yeah.
So I shot 59 points, 2 penalties. I get 39 match points.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, I'm 2 stages in, and I'm 35 points behind the winner on a 100-round match.
Yeah. You know what's
that's just painful.
Well, on those part-time stages.
That's how you like to shoot anyway, Kenny. You always like to be clawing your way from the back.
Dude, sometimes like after that I was like, why do I keep doing this? Like, it's, like here we go again. 4 more stages. Let's turn it up. And
who's the I forget his name all of a sudden, but it's the single stack guy down in Arizona. Damn it, I can't remember his name. But that's how he always is. He like digs himself a hole and then he spends the entire match clawing his way out and ends up winning it.
Man, it was hard because I mean, really, it was a 500-point match. Like maximum if you won every stage, 500 points. It's not going to happen. So being back down 35 with 4 stages left, not big stages, right? I mean, we had a 12-rounder, a 14-rounder, an 18-rounder, and a 24-rounder. And it's like, all right, like there's not much here. So we gave her hell, and luckily had a small lead going into the last stage.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that last stage was it was the hotel stage, Tommy, and that stage, the squad before us, probably should have DQ'd 4 of their shooters on that.
They should have DQ'd a lot of their shooters, and they were like, what is the worst way to shoot this stage? We're going to shoot it that way.
Uh-huh.
Like, sometimes gaming a stage is the worst thing you can do.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to find everything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and the stage was fine, but if you're, I mean, we all know that right-handers can't really run. They have a harder time running, what would it be, up range against the gun, because they don't do it a lot. And so the stage, all the walls were actually basically angling downrange from left to right, and they were starting them up range, so they their options are basically to take a step back and shoot some stuff, but they're like, no, I'm going to step forward, shoot some stuff, and then I'm going to run backwards, so uprange to the left. And a ton of these guys, their gun is literally paralleling the wall coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
like
so
200.
Because there's not
There
enough.
was-
There's not enough room to have the gun in another position and be close in the shooting area next to the wall and retreat.
Yeah, one of the guys was paralleling the wall so badly he was pointing the gun at Junior.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we gonna call this? It's just like, jeez.
Yeah, I would say, if you're the certified RO on the squad previous and you're sitting there and you see something unsafe, that it would probably be all right to stop them. And then you'd be like, well, you're not even the RO. Not the argument is never, hey, you're right. I was breaking that. Like, there's arguments about foot faults and all that stuff, and it's just like,
Yeah, I actually did say something. After after he finished the stage cleared, and I went up to the RO and I'm like, and the problem is the RO had actually talked to the shooter and was like, hey, this is what you did. Don't do it again, sort of thing, which I get.
yeah.
And at that point, I can't come in and
You get to a point.
Yeah, it's like I can't. I mean, he already basically said, go and sin no more. I can't really come back and be like, hey.
Also,
you actually
go
need
and
to
sin
go
no
back
more.
there and go tell him he's actually done. I don't know what that line is. I really don't. It's kind of a in my brain. He should have been done.
Well, that one shooter was so bad. Like, we're having a conversation, watching, just because we got this whole squad. We're waiting for the whole squad pretty much to shoot this stage. So we're just having a conversation, and then this happens. Me and Robert look at each other like, nobody calling that. Like,
Yeah.
that wasn't that wasn't 190. That's 220, man. That is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just hard. I mean, it was actually a good stage. It really was.
That was a great stage. I loved it.
But it's just one of those things where it's the conga line of death, right? I mean, the one good shooter goes and does something, and everybody's like, that's how we're going to do it. And nobody actually stops to think of, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe there's another way.
Yeah.
But it's just what people do, and
That's
the bad thing is, like, there were some good shooters on that squad in front of us, and just watching their stage plans, like, you guys are giving, like, you're trying to save 3/4 of a second, and you're giving up 4 seconds trying to save 3/4 of a second.
Yeah, and I don't know. It was interesting. I don't know how to feel about that one, mostly because I don't know. Like, if you're not the RO, if you're not the RO, there, when it comes to safety, you can say stop, and I get that. But at the same time, if the RO goes and already talks to the shooter and says, hey, don't do this ever again, at that point, I don't know really what your position is in that world of being like, I know what he said, but I'm telling you, you're now done. That's, especially if you're not even on the squad. It's
this is
there's a rule. I'm sure there's a proper way to do this, and if I think about it more deeply, I could probably figure it out. But I didn't like that. I didn't like that yesterday.
I think the kind of middle position would be call stop. RO says, like, why did you call stop? It's because he had his muzzle pointed past the 180, but that is your call to make, not mine. And if the guy argues, I didn't have my muzzle past the 180, then you simply say, okay, well, do it exactly the same again. And now with the RO watching it, guess we'll probably won't happen again. And if it does happen, then you'll probably have the effective call. But honestly,
more like, well, Junior saw that you were shooting hollow points.
Yeah, it's like if there is no better time to call stop than when somebody's getting muzzled with a loaded gun. And most likely with somebody, the people who do not pay attention to the 180 are remarkably the same people who run around with their finger in the trigger.
Right. And to be honest, I didn't notice like that he was pointed at Junior until I actually walked up and I stood at the position, looked at the wall, followed the wall down, and I'm like, oh shit,
yes,
that's his chair.
And the other part is like everyone remember that the 180 is not a force field that stops you from standing in a bad spot while other people are shooting.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get shot,
I didn't like that.
Don't be where bullets can be pointed. So, the one question I had for you, Kenny, is like, all right, well, we shot the open. We're We're swimming in USPSA limbo. You probably only shot this match because you paid for a USPSA membership for another year so you could shoot state and moving on. I was like, I'm wondering when the limited optics prodigy is gonna come out so you could shoot with the walkies and shoot limited optics. You have no interest in shooting limited optics. I think
You want to borrow one?
I think limited optics would be the Kenny Terry division to sit there and play around with and to mess like and to shoot and to really compete in. I mean, I think the prodigy, a Seymour Dada or something on that thing, and having the walkies to bounce ideas off with as far as equipment would probably be one of the best things that you could run for the next year, and cheaper too, for Clay.
Well, the fun thing is Clay has a prodigy, so I guess maybe I'll just swap one gun for another gun. But no, if I'm gonna do that, I'll just shoot my Glock 34. I don't see a point in buying a prodigy or anything like that. We'll see what I do. Like, suppose there's talks of Sups getting Nats again. If that happens, maybe we'll give her another run. I don't know. People keep asking me that if I'll give it another run, but I don't think people understand like how competitive I am, that I can't just
26, I
dip
think,
my
would be the
toes in.
earliest to get nationals.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Shooting limited yesterday, that was fun. I forgot how hard it was. And to me, that's enjoyable. Like, it's not something you can come up and just shoot. And if you make mistakes, like, you really got to work at it.
Yeah. I just sit there and you think about like the time investment in something like that, and the investment in shooting 40 caliber or 38 super nowadays is a much more financial investment than it was 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I need you to shoot 40 because I got 4.5 buckets just sitting around here. So
let's do this. that is the nice thing. I mean, I still have quite a bit of 40 stuff too. So, but I don't know. Competing with Leo again was really fun. Leo's obviously an extremely good shooter, so shooting the same gun against him is fun. You can't make mistakes in like in open. You can make a lot of mistakes, and the gun eats it up, a lot of it. Yeah. Limited, you got to work for it.
I was talking to Charlie Perez over dinner a couple weeks ago while we were at the Utah State match, and I asked him, hey, since you're shooting open now, what do you notice is the biggest thing that you have to do? And he goes, you just have to blend positions together so much and shoot it at such a speed, that it becomes kind of a different animal. And I wonder if that's what makes you feel slow when you're shooting limited. It's like you have to use the iron sights, and even though it's different, there's probably less of a push to blend the shooting positions as close together than in open, so it gives you kind of a time, at least the time in your mind as you're shooting it, kind of shows the change there.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Like, I really wish that maybe we could shoot like 2 weekends of back-to-back stages, because when you shoot open, like, it feels like you're working it hard, right? Like, just a flash of red happening a lot, you're really slapping the trigger and going. So I'd really like to shoot open, feeling that, versus shoot my limited gun, knowing how a limited gun feels, and actually see what the time differences are.
Yep.
Like, maybe it's just a placebo. Maybe in open, my eyes feel like they're working harder than they really are, and in limited, my eyes are actually just doing what they need to.
Yep.
That would be an interesting way to go. Do the October, like, week 1, shoot whatever you want. Week 2, you can shoot, but it has to be a different division.
Yeah.
For me, I'd shoot carry optics and then limited optics, and I just use the same gun. But
I still think it'd be a cool idea, because if you left
I think it'd be a lot of fun. Like, go shoot it like
designs.
with a
I think
it could be a lot of fun.
Yep, and then you could actually see the score differences if it was the exact same match. If you shot a completely separate division that might be actually really different, like something like single stack or prod.
Yeah,
you can go in there and kind of shoot it and see what it was. But I think you and limited optics would be fun. You get to shoot 9mm. You get a 2011 design pistol. You get a lot of the open stuff that you worked on with dot shooting and blending positions together. And all you got to do is blend them and not shoot Charlies. And
so I wouldn't mind like giving one a go, just seeing how good you can make them feel. Because I've shot 2 Prodigies and a built SV, and all of them felt slow. And so I'm curious if that's just part of like 2011s are normally built to shoot major, but those guns just feel like they're slow. Slide velocity is not keeping up. They're slow to return.
Have you shot Jared's? Because I think he runs a whippy slide.
I shot his Warwick way back when, but
Yeah.
not that I can really remember. And that's why I was curious if they just got to cut slides, or if, like, I was talking to Walkies about this because they're shooting 124s, and Mark feels his slides a little slow. And when I shoot, I'm like, yeah, I feel like you're waiting on the gun to shoot. Like, maybe try 115s at like a 137 power factor. Try to get that baby moving a little bit.
Yeah.
Is the
Actually, that is a good point. I noticed that with the Prodigy, that it does feel like the slide is kind of, ka-chugga chugga back.
Yeah.
And I mean that actually is a really good observation.
well, that's
Yeah. So if I shot limited optics, it'd probably only be for that reason. Just see if I could actually get one to feel comfortable to me that I could shoot it aggressively.
well.
Yeah.
Is this finally the spot where we're actually thinking about upping the recoil spring? Because is it slow on the going back of the slide, or is it slow on the return of the slide into battery?
I think it's slow both ways. I mean, so far I haven't shot one that the slide was light, right? These are all full weight slides, and I think they just weigh so much shooting, 131 power factor that it's just not
I
getting a lot
wonder
of slide
I
velocity.
wonder if it would be different if you shot the Prodigy with basically the Commander, was the 4.5 inch slide.
Yes,
That
I
would
actually
be a
shot
little bit better.
Zellwegs of that, and that's true. His did return a little quicker.
Yeah.
No.
So that might be the trick.
Yeah.
Because the supposedly, Koski's not here to give me crap. So Dave Blanton actually said the 4.5 inch Prodigy. I don't know if it's 4 or 4.5, whatever it is. He
Four
said
and a
that one
quarter,
actually
right?
is really, really good,
Yeah.
and
that's
it's
what,
just like
Josh
reliable
Zellweg's
as all
shooting.
get up. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
there's also a lot of talk about when you actually have the shorter slide guns that they actually feel quicker and they return faster than some of the long slides. I mean, that's kind of been like a common thing that's happened. Like you mentioned Dave Bland again, he does a video too where he has a bunch of people shoot. Here's the 5-inch gun, here's the 4-inch gun. Which one do you
Mhm.
think shoots and returns a little bit better? I think the Glock 34 is probably one of the exceptions to that. I mean, it's not much heavier than a standard Glock 17, and it just seems to point better, and it soaks up a little bit more recoil, but it still returns
Right.
pretty fast. But if you have some of those other guns, especially the heavier framed guns, yeah, they do tend to feel like they lift a little bit less, and so the slide travel always feels a little bit slower than what it would be if you had a shorter slide.
Plus, I'm curious on the 5-inch slide, if you just milled it a little bit, lose a little bit of weight, nothing crazy, but just try to lose a little weight in it. Maybe go to a lower grain bullet. If you could keep a 5-inch to actually keep up and still keep the muzzle down.
Why
Yeah,
would you not just change the recoil spring?
I mean, you could. That's what I'm saying. I haven't played with them much. I know I have not played with him, but I know Mark went down to like a 10, I think, and he said it was still going slow.
Wow.
I mean, at
Time
some
for
point you
Nate.
got to worry about recoil spring to not beat the gun up. But
That's true as well.
yeah. Well, and the other part too is like once you have an optic on it, besides velocity, if the gun feels slow, well, it's like the Glock 34 thinking about shooting a Glock 34 in limited optics. It's like the gun snaps back fast, so it doesn't really matter how well do you think it's feeling like it's pitching up or down. But like, it's not like you need the sight radius, and it's not like you can't load for the muzzle velocity out of a 4.5-inch barrel.
yeah.
So
Tom, I'm curious, how did your squad shoot stage 5? Hotel.
The hotel stage, start of hands on the X, step right, shoot the popper, and then I don't like backing up.
They shot it the dumb way.
Thank you. Shot the
No,
popper.
well, I mean that's what we talked about. Like it said that we were talking about how it just ate a lot of time.
Yeah, so we shot the popper, and then I instantly transitioned to the left, shot that one, shot the low target that was to the right, and then shot the right target that was behind the barrel, then swinger, paper, step through paper, and finished up. I'm guessing a lot of guys might have just walked into the last position, shot that, and then worked their way back around.
So, I mean, yeah, the squad in front of us, a lot of guys shot it your way. Some guys, like, ran around the front and then made pretty much an oval.
Yeah, some of those guys did it really, really weird, like very poorly.
Yeah, but so I guess my point is, like, what was your thought process of shooting the activating popper first?
Just that it's right there. So for me, shooting the activating popper first has a lot to do with the gear that I'm running. So like I have to remove the shirt, I have to get the gun, and so like my hand placement and where I get the shirt and get the gun is a little bit different because I have to eat sometimes a little bit more time. But I did not feel like running or moving anything was anything else. Two, the other thing is like I'm training to shoot a match where it's just like the draw is going to be what it's going to be, and shooting far targets and being accurate with every shot is what really is going to matter, and not so much the stage plan. So I literally just went with today as like what seems like something that feels like I can flow through and execute, and all that matters today is points.
Yeah.
Get points. And so like when your idea, it's kind of funny when you change your idea to like I'm just going to get points and shoot every single A I possibly can. It's funny how shots on or a stage plan kind of melt away a little bit. Now if the plan was, hey, become 10 seconds faster for this entire match, it probably would have been a more riskier plan. But I shot that and just went to collect points, and that's all I did. And I think I still came out with a pretty high score on the stage. I think in carry optics too. I think I performed pretty well on that.
For sure.
So it's definitely it is hard when you do not have a large set of highly experienced shooters on the same team, but not only are highly experienced and good shooters, but are independently minded to show you something else. That's the one thing, because a lot of other people will just follow what they think is the best shooter's plan, and then even in good squads like your local super squad, they will follow. A lot of people will follow the most experienced plan, and it takes like certain people to be like, no, I'm going to do it this way, and I think this way is better. But like as most plans go, as long as it's not mildly retarded, most plans will shake out sixes.
Well, it's kind of like I kind of follow the general rule of I'm going to shoot the basic plan unless you can tell me a reasoning and why gaming is better. Because a lot of people, they'll try to game it. It's like, well, what's your reasoning? Like hard facts. Where am I going to gain something that I can risk a riskier plan versus straightforward?
What was it you told Mark Walkie? It was Mark or Matt yesterday. It's like the first plan you come up with is like 90% of the time is the correct plan.
Yeah, the basic plan 90% of the time is the best plan.
Yeah. That's pretty true.
The basic plan is super easy to execute. Normally not a lot of risk to it. When you start gaming stuff, you start adding risk. So then you got to evaluate what is the risk gaining you and is it worth it?
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, at a local match, I mean, that's what I kind of found yesterday is, I mean, trying something different than what is normal. I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's kind of an interesting exercise in let's just do something different.
Yeah.
And there's actually a certain amount of fun in just trying something different, even if it doesn't pan out. You're like, oh, okay, well, I've now learned something about myself and in these positions, and I can take away from that. And so there's value in that. I don't know that you'd want to do that at a major match. But I think a local is certainly a place to experiment with some of that stuff.
Well, absolutely.
Well, the one thing is too is like strategy. Like what is my strategy, my overall strategy for this match? And so like me shooting the activator first, like the only time you really want to shoot an activator first is one, if it's really super easy, or two, you really feel like you could take advantage of slowing down the swinger. And I don't know if you guys have realized this recently, but the swingers over at Slipsa have been traveling somewhere north of the sound barrier. I mean, they
yesterday the swinger on that stage, it slowed down fast.
It was terribly slow.
We saw like
it was stationary by the time you guys got to it, Tommy.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
not
like
completely, but darn near.
if you activated the popper first, it was like a geriatric swinger, like trying to impress a young lady. Like it was moving, but not as well as a young man should be moving. And so like you shoot it and then go through shoot it, and so then I end up with a 3 alpha or 2 alpha and a Charlie on it, which exponentially moves up the points because like I can't afford to give 40% of points away. I can't do that. I don't have the mobility to do that. So if a stage plan allows me to collect 15 points, like it's 3 shots per target. 15 points is a lot of points, and it's sure a hell lot better than 11. And so if I go Alpha 2 Charlie on that thing, my hit factor drops pretty significantly than literally having 3 sets.
Have you? Go ahead.
Well, I guess it's really worth on like when you have these kind of stage plans. It's not how much an alpha is worth, but how much is a Charlie or a Delta worth on that stage plan. Because, with the magic of practice score, we mathematically know how much each one of those points is worth on a stage.
And like you resign. Go ahead, Kenny.
I think shooting minor, that always has to happen. Like when I was shooting minor, I'd always walk up to a stage and I have to ask myself, like, what is acceptable points down? And then, yeah, sometimes that has to play into your stage plan of what will make the acceptable points down.
The
But
fun
then there also has to be the argument of how many points down can you give to gain X amount of time? Because at the end of the day, hit factor wins. Like that's
Yep.
all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so the plan has to be exponentially advantageous to kind of work those way. Because the one thing I kind of noticed just going in practice score, messing around with things, like we talk about a half-second point down in old school IDPA. Well, a lot of Charlies on these, 6 hit factor, 7 hit factor stages are 0.36, 0.43. I mean, they are literally hovering around. And even in an old school IDPA match, you would not want to go into some stage and shoot 7 Charlies, but and get penalized there the 3.5 seconds. But like in USPSA minor shooting on these medium stages, you're damn well close. So it's like you can add time to your score pretty fast. It just hides itself because it's under a different category in points.
So have you resigned yourself to the fact to not the fact have you resigned yourself to the position that you're never going to actually get any faster?
I'm not resigned to that position. I will try
okay.
I will try to move as fast as I can. I'll try to
Mhm.
move as aggressive as I can, but
Because shooting points, shooting with an emphasis on points will get you into A, but you'll never leave A.
yeah, like it'll
And I'm not don't misunderstand.
no.
I'm not saying anything at all negative. I mean, but that's just kind of one of those things. You can shoot your way into it, but the speed has got to catch up. You got to be able to shoot Kenny Terry splits and transitions mostly. You got to be able to hit those transitions hard and fast.
And like normally, like on a year ago, you would be 8 to 10 seconds faster than I was on a match, and I've consistently brought that down lower and lower. But the one thing I resigned myself not to do is like it takes me no additional time to aim the gun in recoil. But what I start to do is like you just start getting lackadaisical. It's like, well, the first one I'll aim at a certain point in the A zone, and the second shot I'll just fire at Brown, so I can get going. And it's just like, well, that Charlie was 0.4 of a second. Was it faster? And it's like the old IDPA question: was it faster than doing it? Having the faster splitter, moving to the next position is just like when the entire score is added up, you can't do it. And like the one thing that I'm just going back thinking about with shooting minor is like you can't shoot Charlies. Some people can outrun Charlies. Some people can outrun deltas and Mikes, like have like serious like John Bautista speed, can like really start outrunning those, but you can't outrun too many of them. But like people can have that kind of speed. I do not have outrunning Charlie's speed yet. I might have it, but I sure as hell can aim and hit 3 alphas at the same speed I can hit alpha and 2 Charlies or an alpha Charlie delta. It is factually true. I can shoot as well because it's not like my splits are increasing when I'm throwing bad points. My aim is decreasing and I feel like I'm going faster.
Okay, so I guess the next
we're actually
question.
in eye and mindset struggle then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can shoot that pace and shoot alphas, but realistically, your internal clock is telling you that you need to go quicker, and so then your eyes are failing you.
Yep.
Right. So is that not
everything
just
Kenny just said? Yeah.
Well, so it's just a planning or a what's called planning the stage, and then being in your subconscious mind during the stage.
Yep. It is only the visual matters during the stage. Because anything that if I put through, like, believe me, I'm still going to try to move. I'm still going to try to shoot. But, like, the dot returns
Tommy,
to where
then,
you shot.
honestly, but Tommy, then the question is, what are you doing today to learn how to see faster?
What are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing today to see faster is having...
Because that's really going to be the ticket, right? I mean, you've got to figure out... It's what I always talk about when I talk to new shooters, and they're like, "Well, I just need to slow down." It's like, no, you need to learn to see faster. Like if Jeff Gordon got in a Honda car, he'd still kick our ass because he's just that much better at it. You could drive around the racetrack, at 60 miles an hour with the most perfect fundamentals in the world, seeing everything you need to see and doing it deliberately, and he's still going to wax your ass because he's just figured out how to do it faster. And so the question that I think Kenny's asking, and me too, is like, what are you doing today to see faster?
Yeah,
Well, I'm
well,
curious if you're taking the wrong.
Am I that kind of right?
Yeah, but I'm curious if you're taking the wrong mindset. You went into the match saying I'm going to shoot better points, and so then fundamentally you force yourself to do that. Instead of saying I'm going to shoot better points, why don't you go into the match saying I'm going to read my sights and shoot what's acceptable?
I think
and
that
then your
is
natural speed should come, and you're just going to read your sights and shoot whatever's acceptable.
Yeah, that
Whether
is
it's
true.
Alpha or Charlie, you're shooting whatever's acceptable.
that is I would say like the plan for the match yesterday was I will aim the first shot and I will return the gun to that same spot for the second shot. As far as being like I'm going to collect all the alphas, no matter what, no matter how long it takes, like I'm going to shoot that. So that is not the plan, nor is it reflected in my overall time for the stages.
I know Tyler Turner thinks I have shit opinions, but you should go listen to the practical shooting training group that he just did with Joel.
Yeah.
He actually talks about this. They had a really, really great conversation about just kind of the mindset when you're going into matches, and when you start to think I'm going to do this very thing, and it kind of just starts to hurt on you a little bit. But it's worth to listen to, because I mean the stuff he's talking about is actually he's pretty damn smart.
Yeah, I mean there's so many books about this, right? What is that with winning in mind? Like he talks about the same thing if you're talking about an outcome versus your actions.
The process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
versus the process. And that's my process yesterday was put the dot where you want the bolt to go, return the dot, and then fire the shot to where you want the bolt. Repeat process over and over. Do not think about anything else. Do not think like if I came away with 20 Charlies yesterday, but felt like I had stayed on pace, I would have been just as happy with that. But the whole point is process. Stage plans aren't changing. The reloads aren't changing. The urgency is not changing. I'm not going to try to increase splits or decrease splits to get points. The process is pay attention to the process of visually putting the dot on the target, the spot where you want to hit, and doing that for every shot for the match. And so, my times did not decrease from where they should be. I didn't feel like I shot those stages any slower than I should have. I just collected more points in the process of what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting at. Is like you can shoot fast, and you can shoot good points, but there's always that playing with the mindset of what will actually be that ticket.
Yep.
To make both those come together, right? To make your natural speed shoot at your natural pace, and then your eyes to shoot at the pace you should be shooting at.
Yeah, and not forcing one that overrides to the detriment of the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you can only shoot. I know this is a lot of caveat to this, but you can only shoot as fast as you can see your sights.
Yeah.
You can only shoot effectively as fast as you can see your sights. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I always tell people, like, just let your sights tell you a story, and just read your sights. Just.
Yep.
Like for the long term, that will be the best way of shooting.
Yep.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because the only reason that you're shooting a Charlie is because you started, instead of doing what you're supposed to do, you started doing something else.
Well, yeah, yes and no. But my point of an acceptable sight picture, if it's a super hard partial, in my eyes, a Charlie would be an acceptable shot. I'm shooting it.
Oh no, I'm with you there. No, I'm just saying, like, if
things are equal
shooting,
on an
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
yeah,
and you go Alpha, Charlie out, and there's like, well, it's because you're not paying attention to the dot telling you a story, right?
Yep.
Or your sight's telling you a story.
Yeah.
It's your, like, you saw the first thing, and then you started like, oh, this one's coming up, so I better hurry and start you're not following the. So that makes sense.
The one thing I was very happy about is that all the Charlies were close Charlies, right? Alphas and close Charlies. That's the dream. And if you want to
I think fundamentally, well, let's move on. Sorry.
Robert's moving on. We're wearing a Dominate Defense belt. Head over to dominatedefense.com where you can move on and live the dream. Looking good, sitting down, recording shows, having the finest belt on the industry, Dominate Defense. You can check out their Teal Burn Concealment belt on Tier 1. website, or just get any one of the fine Dominate Defense products like the Mach 1 Speed Belt set up at dominatedefense.com. Use promo code PARA10. Also, check out Precision Holsters Fast Holster, one of the finest holsters you can get. Unless you're left-handed and want to shoot a Prodigy, but Kenny won't have that problem because Kenny's right-handed like a normal person, and he is going to save 10% by using promo code PARA10 and shoot a Prodigy in limited optics. Also,
the race is still on. Let's see who wins.
Rune Tactical W74 guide rods. Get an extra gun, get an extra bullet in the magazine. Also, get an extra couple ounces in that blaster. Hopefully that and some spring changes will get a Prodigy side to cycle a little bit faster. Check them out. Use promo code on both of their shops at PARA10, 10% off. That's Rune Tactical and W74 guide rods. Telegram, questions, Robert?
Couple of them. Let's see from Bill. Let's see. New match director tips, practice score tips and tricks. How to set up a network at a range, how to advertise and get people to your match, and tips for setting up and building stages. Start at the top. New match director tips. Talk to the old match directors. Ask them what they did right. Ask them what they did wrong, and ask them the things that they could have done to be better. That's what we ask in architecture every single day. Those 3 questions. If you do that, you're going to find a lot of success. Practice score tips and tricks.
I have a.
Go ahead.
I don't
Tommy.
know how you guys feel about this. How do you guys feel about taking very well-known national level shooters and comping them their match fee to shoot your match?
Yeah, I find no value in that.
I don't know, like JJ
Rickaza.
It's like, let's just say you have your state or your sectional or whatever you're doing, and you sit there and you go and you reach out to people like, let's say, JJ Rickaza or Shane Coley or Niels Jonasson, or and you sit there and you take these national champions and you say, if you come participate in our match, we will comp you your match fee for shooting this match and maybe offset some of their travel or something like that to get them into your match as a way of advertisement.
What are you trying to gain from that?
Well, Tom's talking about a major match, right? He's just trying to get the major match to fill up more for people seeing that person's coming to the match.
Yeah, because I mean, if you see Niels or you see someone, you see a national level guy shooting the division that you shooting, like how much more are you, like, you see that, Kenny, are you more willing to travel to Tennessee to go shoot a match?
Yep.
Okay.
And so it's like,
I didn't think of it that way.
I mean, if you imagine that if your match sells out, the amount of revenue might offset comping 3 match fees and maybe a few hotel rooms.
We're going to pay for the hotel rooms now too?
Well, whatever gets them. Like, there's a level of advertising that you cannot pay for by just having the person there. And if you think that spending $700 on having one shooter there might be worth more than the advertising something else just by having their name floated in the practice score as that they're shooting that match.
So I think something you got to think of here, the year they shoot, it might not make much of a difference. But if this is a match that you'll be holding yearly, it may make a difference the following year.
So now you're going to be paying to bring them in every single time?
I'm not saying do it every year, but like, so maybe you pay them 1 year. If they post their videos, whatever, all this shit, you get exposure. Maybe next year it'll pay for itself. I don't think it'll pay for itself that year. I guess what I'm getting is, like, Utah State was a small match, and then we started pulling in Charlie, Bob, Elias, and then all of a sudden the match started just selling out constantly because, hey, there's 4 really high-end shooters. They post their match videos. People that follow them say, oh, look at this match. It's a cool match. And then in the years later, it pays for itself. I think the year they show up.
Did I mention that we have Jeremy Reed? Because, I mean, that's some high-end talent right there. So now you people have to come because we had Jeremy Reed come.
But, I mean, really, is it like,
work with me on this?
It's a word-of-mouth thing, right? And
yeah.
I think the opinion's a lot stronger when it comes from high-end shooters.
Sure.
Now, if you
no, I mean, you are right about that.
Correct. It has to go with a good match on the ground with a lot of polish that goes along with it.
If you comp their match, you put on a good match, and they say, hey, this was a legit solid match, then I think in the years later it will pay for itself. The year you comp them, I don't think it'll help you at all.
Okay. That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
But it is a risk, right? I mean, it's all advertising is a risk, though.
Practice score tips and tricks.
That's for
Uh,
you, Rob.
Yeah.
Practice score tips and tricks. Um, from a match director standpoint, at a major match versus your regular local, um, anything you can do to make it easier to sync. If you don't have network access or like Wi-Fi access at the range, then having one of those little portable Wi-Fi routers that you can just turn on and off helps to sync everything. Go to, like, if you go to Practice Score, they actually have a bunch of like how-to videos. I know that USPSA has some Practice Score videos, and I haven't watched them, and so I shouldn't bag on them. But since pretty much everything coming out of USPSA is generally dog shit, I probably would go find information from anywhere else. As
Well,
much as I hate to say that.
the one answer is if you would like the full consultation, it's actually cheaper than you think. It's going to cost you a $1,300 Palmetto State Armory Jackal and FDE tan with a 13.7 barrel, and you just dangle that in front of Mr. Robert Wyatt, and he'll basically remotely on a FaceTime uh, help you install the screws in the brackets that hold something up. So that's probably the best way to go about it.
I would like to take back everything I said and say I now agree with Tommy. How to set up a network at the range? It depends on if you have wired access already. If you have wired access, it's pretty easy. You just all you have to do is just start a router, and then add access points, same as you would with your house. If you don't have that, then you're gonna have to look into a solar installation. And that's not terribly difficult. You just have to have a place to put them all. It's probably a little bit more involved than trying to discuss over this show. Send me a message, and I'll send you the link to everything we did. Lex and I actually wrote all this stuff and put it into a paper, and that just so that people could actually start that out. As far as how to advertise and get people to your match, there's what Tommy said. This is actually something that's been really interesting. And this last week, with our introduction match, I talked to two new shooters who both expressed a really interesting comment, which is that if you're brand new and you don't know where to go, you see stuff on YouTube, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll go to this USPSA website. The problem is the USPSA website, as I alluded to, is kind of crap. It doesn't really tell you how to actually go sign up for a match. You can click on this map and it'll tell you where the match directors are, but even then that doesn't really tell you. There needs to be a way that we should basically be saying, like, if you want to shoot USPSA, you should be going to practicescore.com. You should never even look up USPSA. Practice really is how everything gets done, but we don't really speak to that all that well.
Yeah, like,
as far as
find a match in your area, practicescore.com. You know, it just have the hot link down there to move people along to. And I think
that's literally what the website needs to say. Find a match in your area. Click here. Takes you to Practice Score, and you go from there. Well, that's the best way. Kenny? Oh, I thought you were gonna say something.
No.
The other thing that's kind of I mean, people like Robert's match, like, if you phrase or call the match and what kind of people you want, like an introduction or a beginner's class or something like that, you will get those kind of clientele to show up for the match too.
So yeah, Tommy. So one of the guys, he he had gone into the armory, and he got talking to one of the employees, saying, I like shooting, and I wish there was more to do, but I can't figure it out. And it was only because he happened to talk to one of the employees who the previous match had come to the match. And it was just because you had that random happenstance of two people that had this mutual interest align, that there was this communication. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know the answers to it. I mean, could we put up more signs and say, hey, come, this is how to, come shoot this match? We could. Word of mouth has always been one of the biggest ways that we advertise generally. The USPSA.com or org or whatever that website is, as much as I hate to say it, it's just worthless. It just doesn't really help. Practice Score is by far the best way, but nobody associates USPSA with the term Practice Score.
Yeah,
and I don't know how to resolve that.
Yeah, I would say too, it's like if you're having a new club and trying to get people interested into that club in that area. The absolutely naming the things on something like Practice Score or USPSA.org as uh, beginners handgun match, USPSA match level 1, something like that. And like
Mhm.
because today's beginners in 3 months, like they're your ROs, man. They get one RO class, and they're the people that are help setting up to keep those matches going. And so
Yeah,
I
I changed the name of mine to, it used to be New Shooter Match, and I changed it based on a comment I got from a guy, and I started calling it Introduction to USPSA Match, because I found what, and he was right. I found I was getting like new shooters, like, hey, I just bought this gun, I'd like to learn how to shoot it, and I'm like, this isn't really that kind of thing, but I still help them for sure, but by changing that name, so it's what you're saying, Tom. By changing that name, it kind of like says this is what we're doing.
yep.
Those were the days Robert and I got flagged 6 times a night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that dude dropped the gun.
Good lordy.
Oh yeah.
People who
that
drop
was-
guns are morons. Just dumb dumbs.
Your gun was empty, Tom, all right? At
Yeah,
least it wasn't a loaded gun pointing at you falling down.
he was a nice guy, but you could tell when he held that
Sweet
gun.
soul.
He the what do you call it? It just wasn't, the elevator wasn't going to the top. That's all there was. It just
Yeah,
nice as could be. But
I mean that's the one thing. It's like new drivers or introduction into racing. It's just like what is
yes.
what's your name, sweetheart? Tina? You haven't driven before. So I got to teach you how to drive and then also how we're going to race. That's like those things don't go together.
One of the, actually, just thinking on this a little bit, but one of the things that you can do is, this actually kind of goes back to your comp idea, is start reaching out to the various gun groups that are in your area, like notably like a girl and a gun, the well-armed women.
Well-endowed women of North America. And
That's a different website.
Pacific Asia, please.
The well-armed women. Some of these different groups, and if you can find like the group organizer and have them come out and get them involved. Cindy Zumwalt has been probably one of the best proponents for getting women to come out to the matches and try things out. And I've actually, the 4th of October, she asked me to come specifically to their group meeting and actually help them run a match just for them, so that the ladies can try this out, because we've had a lot of ladies come out. They all enjoy it. They have a great time and they learn a lot, but it goes back to this thing. You need to have a friend that in a lot of cases will come with you and help you out.
Mm-hmm.
It goes so far to making it better for people. But the introduction matches I still think they're probably the best thing that we do, and one of the things that USPSA has never really pursued to the degree they need to actually get people into the game.
Well, it's so funny. It's like the people who don't shoot your match anymore are at Slipsa every week.
Yeah. I there's no small amount of pride in me being able to walk through the Slipsa match, and in almost every single squad, I can find somebody who came through that introduction match.
And they're mostly like new ROs and all that stuff too. So it's been great.
It's one of the things that I think I've actually done right in life. But let's see, JB, why won't Brian this is the Brian Enos forums, why won't Enos let us talk about what's going on in USPSA?
Well,
it's his forums. Who knows?
Like, there's a couple thoughts in this. Is like, why not? Why get in, like, if you're just a neutral third party and you're hosting stuff, like, why get into? Why let people just go off of on random, not random stuff, but like salacious stuff on your website? Like, what's the point? And there's another thing too. It's just like, shooting, and USPSA is USPSA, and forming that out. But like, maybe there's a bias there, or maybe he just doesn't want to deal with it.
I don't think Enos is even involved with it anymore.
He still runs the site.
Well, he runs it, but I don't think it's the reason that you can't. The reason is that the moderators have a very large degree of control over the forums, and if they don't like what's being discussed, then they'll lock it down. And I don't know what the right answer is to that. I mean, in the Telegram thing, it's pretty much it's anything goes. I've never had this idea of moderating even like the USPSA Facebook page for Utah. In the entire time that I've had that, I think I've removed 2 posts that weren't like spam or something like that. I've like had like 2 posts that just went badly because it wasn't there was no value in it.
Yeah.
I'm generally inclined to let people say whatever they
both of
want.
them were started by Robert.
Ironically, one of them was. The other one, I'll tell you about that later. The other one, but no, there was just no value in it. And so I don't generally like removing posts. I understand why they do it. They're trying to keep the forums a place where there's actual valuable information, and at a certain point it goes from the Brian Enos forums of useful information, which I think is questionable anymore. No, there's still good information on there, to basically Duty Project, where it's people just being mad about being mad. And there's a balance. Everything in life has a balance, and I don't know what it is. I'm generally inclined to let people say whatever they want to say, even if I don't agree with it. I just don't have to respond to it. Let's see. Well, Steve's not here on his Glock performance trigger, but he probably still likes it.
Well, there's issues with those creeping up now. It's just like, oh, like now they have to be oiled and they have to be wiped down and they have to be clean, or else they don't want to reset. Is now the consensus on those things. That it was a factory part, but now that factory part basically needs to be maintained.
Oh, really?
Pretty frequently to keep it going. And so like now we're just back to
well, now you lost me at cleaning, so
yeah, now we're back literally to just you just kind of do your own little trigger part, or you just get the only third party one I think is probably, I think the Timney is probably great, and an M&P or something like that for the Glock, no, but like the Apex, it's like the Apex, they make their own parts. It's a traditional Glock style trigger. You know, they keep everything tight and quality control, and so it's just going to be. It's not, you're not trying to change anything like you are.
I guess I just have a hard time, Tommy, with. I mean, the minus connector and an OEM trigger work.
Yep.
And it just works and keeps on working.
It
probably doesn't need to be the greatest whiz bang thing in the world because it's going to work.
The Glock triggers, for how simple they are, actually, when you look at them and how they actually have to interface with all the parts, are actually much more complicated than a mainspring, a sear, and a trigger bar when you're actually putting together. Because there's a lot of people who will screw around with their Glocks and make their Glocks not work, just understanding that the trigger bar and the firing pin, those need to be adjusted to each other. You know,
well, Tyler brought up on that the podcast he did with Joel. I mean, like the difference, because he was talking about the Tanfolio and the Glock trigger, and like for him the trigger is everything. And the problem with the Glock is that, you know, there's, when you take up that slack, it's still this plastic kind of action. Things are moving around, and it's just a little bit more of an issue, you know. And timing, he's spent so much time behind a Glock that, you know, if he says something, then obviously his opinion's is gonna carry a lot of weight. And so, well, I don't know. It's hard because it's like they have all these new triggers. This is basically like all of the optics. All these new optics come out. They're like, oh, these are the great optics. You're like, okay, how many times have they broke? Well, a lot. Well, my SRO may not be like the, you know, super cleanest dot or best glass or whatever. I'm like,
but it works.
But it keeps working, and it's been working. And for me, it just keeps working. Yeah. And at a certain point, I'm willing to trade a little bit of performance for the absolute crispest, bestest, most racy kind of situation. Everybody's got to have their place where they make that decision. I don't know, man.
The Glock trigger is, I don't know why Glock still makes them. The trigger, the way they do, I mean, they're good. Like when they're put together and they're adjusted correctly, they are fantastic and reliable triggers, and you never really get one that doesn't work out of the factory. That being said, every modern polymer frame gun is not set up like a Glock. They all have sears now, and they're all going with pre-cock strikers because it's a lot easier of a mechanism to manufacture and to put in a gun than having some trigger bar with the cruciform that needs to be adjusted that slips off of the drops the trigger by the act of the angle of a connector which is in a firing pin housing, which also has to be
Right.
adjusted, which is held in by a plastic housing, which is held in by a plastic pin.
If I was gonna do it, if I was gonna mess with a Glock trigger right now, honestly, Kenny, I'd probably give it to you and have you do it because you've made yours work, and they're dead reliable.
And Kenny's like setting a set screw in all the factory parts and like doing some minor like polishing on the factory parts and setting the over travel like in the factory part that's already there. There's like a bunch of different changes, but if you look at all the stuff like the Walthers and everything else, like they know. I don't think the last person who actually came out with a pistol that had a connector was the SR9 from Ruger, and I think they don't even have a connector type system anymore. It is just, that's why all these guns are pre-cock strikers. It is a way easier manufacturing process to get away from this, and so.
All right, let's see. Let's go through these really quick here. Let's see, from Connor Williams. Tom, talk about Tom's journey in competing with his IWB holster and carry gun. When did he start doing that, and what prompted him? And then I'd like to get an MP5 clone. Should I get the HK civilian version, the SP5, or Zenith version of the MP5?
I would save the money and get the Zenith. I've been very happy with my Zenith. Well, our Century Arms AP5s that were the MKE manufacturing. The MKE manufacturing one, I like mine very much and plan on investing more money in them. And Robert has an AP5 as well.
I love it.
Yeah,
I don't have an issue at all with it.
I would save the $1,000 and buy mags and parts for it. Appendix, just beginning of the year, had a slow appendix draw. Thought that was kind of crappy. Kept working on my appendix draw till I could shoot 2 shots in under a second on a 7-yard target. Accomplished that, and now I do not feel any. I am not scared of running appendix in a USPSA match. I do not think it's that different or that scary. I suffer a little bit, maybe a quarter of a second per stage on some stages, depending on what the start position is. But it does not bug me, and I've come up with a pretty good system as far as magazine pouches and how to run it. But yeah, just the T-Rex arm sidecar, extended pouch, and then I run a JM Custom Kydex high ride magazine pouch on what you'd probably call like the 8 o'clock position on my hip, just a little bit behind my hip. That way, I do not try to grab for a magazine that I'm not trying to grab for by grabbing the wrong magazine because they're too close together. It gives me also a position on IDPA to perform a tactical reload because all that real estate isn't taken up by having 2 magazine pouches up front. The one thing that if you're going to run an appendix holster, you have to run appendix magazine pouches because the outside the waistband magazine pouches will bind on the shirt and not allow you to move the shirt freely. And the so besides that, yeah, it's fine. It's nothing. Once you do it a little bit, it's nothing to be scared about. You just build it, and now I'm much faster from that than I am from like the IDPA vest and the strong side holster. And sometimes a lot of my draws and points are similar to an open race rig. It's just because of how much I've done it this year.
Let's see, from Sebastian Munoz, and then there's a follow-on with this from our good friend Sean Edmonds. What's the minimum amount of rounds to have loaded, ready to go? And then from Sean Edmonds, how do you store / carry loaded magazines? We know Tommy has a belt set up on his bedpost. What about everyone else?
Kenny, how much ammo on hand?
I don't know, a few thousand, not a lot. And then I just store all my ammo in buckets.
I have the MTMK scars, the 30 cal cans. You can also get the 3 set of 50 cal cans. A couple of those filled up with your ammunition that you plan on having for a little bit. Like keep 2 of those full, and then even when you go on a dry spell of not reloading, you're still going to have ammunition. So I'm pretty happy. I think I had 3,000 rounds loaded up and continued to load, and I would shoot off of that. And even now that I haven't loaded 9mm in a while, I'm still on like 2 cans of ammunition, so I don't have to worry about that. And then in the wintertime, I'll just restuff those cans. So it's probably, I probably like to have about, I had I think 3 or 4K loaded at the beginning of the year, and right now I'm down to about like 2.5. So.
Yeah, as far as match ammo, I usually load it the night before the match because I'm kind of bad that way. As far as all the other ammo, I don't know. I know I at this point I've still got at least 30,000 22 somewhere. I think there's 4 or 5,000 223 in one of my rooms. If you actually cleaned
Under his
everything out,
kid's bed, he's got a couple thousand.
yeah,
With
I
an
mean
AK that
honestly,
says Wolverines on the stock, you know.
if you look under my sinks, I got tons of ammo, and I just kept buying. This is all factory stuff. I just kept buying factory stuff when it was cheap, like forever ago. And you'd go into the store, and it's like, oh, it's $3. I'm like, okay, I'll buy a bunch. And so I've got shotgun and 22 and 223, and it's all over the place. And I don't know. I just kept buying it. I have tons of it. It probably depends on your ability to actually store it somewhere safely, or safe, for you to forget where it is. So technically, it's safe because you don't know where it is.
Yep. As far as your loaded magazines for like home defense or whatever like that, like
Home
AR-15.
defense, I've got in my I have my AR that's up in the bolted up in the closet, and then I've got the magazine. It's not loaded. It doesn't. I don't keep that loaded. But in my safe, there's two 30-round magazines.
Yeah, like magazine springs are cheap. I mean, like if you literally buy like 3 or 4 Glock magazine springs from like Wolf or from Glock, and buy a couple from Magpul for like your AR-15 stuff, it's just like literally not every year, but every like 2 years,
Just throw the
pop that.
Magpul mags away. They're cheap.
It's literally $10. It's probably going to cost you more in shipping to get the magazine springs away, but keep the
Yeah, well,
followers.
that's literally it.
Yeah.
I just throw. I mean, if they ever stop working, I just chuck them.
Well, here,
Because if you keep your eye out, you can usually find them for 10, $12. I mean, when they go
well,
on sale and stuff, like, it's not a bad way to go.
if you yank them and pull the followers out, and then buy the $7 aluminum magazines. You take that green follower.
The old GI
Yeah,
mags.
you take the old GI follower out. You put the Magpul anti-tilt follower that was in your old PMag. You close the magazine back up. You
You can do
have
that? I didn't know that.
yeah.
Oh, sick.
And so now you have a non-tilt following aluminum magazine. Like it's AR-15 magazines. Like load them up, keep them stored up. They're going to be fine, and that they'll last forever. Those PMags last forever anyway. So, yep, have fun. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a show. Look at that. An hour and 40 minutes. And Kenny talked for a lot of it. So, Oh,
No, I have nothing to say.
He's
we talk about Leo, but
Oh no, dude, we got to answer Leo's question. Sorry, Kenny.
no, it's fine. It was just it's about yesterday, about if you guys like matches that allow for separation.
What do you mean by separation?
So like yesterday, it was really easy for like top 10 to get clustered together. Like it's really easy for everybody to shoot same points, same pace. So the match again, it's gonna be hard for the top guys to separate versus stages that have a little more risk factor to them. A little bigger stages will allow for the top guys to separate themselves.
Oh yeah, I very much prefer that. It's hard. It's sometimes hard for stage designers to think about that, especially if they don't have a lot of experience or they're not a high level shooter. It's one thing Charlie Perez mentioned once that I thought was actually a pretty good point, where like a higher level shooter designing a stage will figure out ways to allow for the higher end guys to separate themselves. Anytime you can do something that will give you a sense of being able to reward risk, is awesome, because it allows Kenny and Leo to kind of battle it out, but it still allows the BCDs to be able to survive and shoot a stage. I think that's cool. That's what he's asking?
Well, basically, like yesterday, like it was hard for anybody to separate themselves, right? Like on a 12-round stage that only has one way of shooting it,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for anybody to separate themselves. Like,
so here's the question:
we're all going to be
on
within
a 12
half
round
second of each other.
Well, on a 12-round stage like that, even if you added different ways to shoot it, the top guys are still going to shoot it the same way, right? I mean, that's probably a fair statement.
I think the separation comes from disaster factor. Like disaster factor is extremely fast swingers. Disaster factor is having a plate rack. Disaster factor is having tuxes and slant partials more on harder shots that allow you to do it, because a lot of the times the best shooters are going to be somewhere near the same time. What's going to really separate them from everyone else is how fast they can go through that. I mean, everyone's seen a plate rack some guy spends 3 seconds more on a plate rack than the other guy because it's 15 yards away and he just can't hit it, like then the scores start to
Right.
separate themselves.
Well, what Jeremy Reed, when I was talking to him at Utah State, said that has stuck with me so much was just this idea that good shooters want to be able to time things. So if I hit this popper, what else can I do before the swinger comes out and activates or and exposes itself? And I mean, I don't have all the solutions for it, but it's at least it's caused me to take a step back and be like, okay, how would I design this stage to give them something that give them a popper, give them an activator, but give them enough other things that it would force them to really kind of sit down and be like, okay, I could show this popper as an activator, then I could put an open target here, which they would immediately swing to because that's a fast one. But I could put this partial up here and maybe a more tempting but threatening target before that all comes out. And is that enough to allow the good shooters who be like, I can hit that skunk target with a penalty sitting right next to it. I can hit that thing real fast. Would that encourage them to try and do that because they knew that they could get that done before that activator and save themselves that time? And I think is that kind of can you do that on a smaller round count is what I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, you can have some activator sequences, like you could have a 5-target, you could literally have a 5-target 11-shot stage where it would be draw, hit, activator, and see what you could get done on targets that completely disappear later, non-penalty mic targets or different types of activators that might be tougher shots, and you could get some major separation between shooters that have the same exact time, but the points is what determines it. You can always have that, but it is always disaster. It's like rally driving. It's like you want some separation, like watch those rally driving because it's either smoking fast time got through the stage. This guy wrapped his Subaru around a tree, and that's separation because that's completing a score versus not completing a score or having trouble in accidents and something like that. When you have no disaster factor, especially in stuff that's calculated as far as we are, then everything bunches up together.
Kenny, what do you think?
Well, no, yeah, I think Tom actually nailed it right there. No disaster factor, which is more or less what happened yesterday. We got talking about this because yesterday's match, like I very much disliked yesterday's match. Leo liked it. Like in my eyes, there was no disaster factor yesterday, so every mistake hurt a lot because there was nowhere else to gain it. There was no disaster factor somewhere else to try to gain that back.
Yep. If you're not, it plays to the risk adverse, right? But then if there's a chance to make up some significant points by risking something, then yeah, you can do it. But even if some things are set up in a way that you have to shoot it that way, even though it's risky, because that is the way that the most amount of points will be accumulated in the least amount of time. And so you have to. It's like the part-time stage. It's like everyone goes for 60 points. But if you just stand in one position and shot all 5 targets and got 5 alphas, you would have 50 points. That would have been a great stage for everybody. But no one did it because everyone went for a part that had a little bit more disaster, which was I'll take some Charlies, I'll try to get to this last position and make it up, and then everyone clusters together because they have like a 46 point because of what they were doing. So even with disaster factors, it can drop down because that's just the plan, and this is what the high-end skill is to accomplish that plan. But yeah, you have to allow people to come away with nothing, like drop turners, IPSC target drop turners that are tuxes in an array, and it's just like you score 2 alphas, you're way ahead. Someone scores an alpha and a mic, then you're having separation.
I guess that's what came from. Like I want to see matches where there's multiple ways of doing stuff and make it a little bit harder versus like I really felt like yesterday was like this no matter how you shoot it, it's 3 positions. You either shoot left to right or right to left.
Right.
There's your idea. And it was like repetitive that all day yesterday. It's like the last stage. It's like sure there's multiple ways of shooting it, but there was one right. There was one right way. That was it.
I think you have to look at multiple ways of shooting something as a timing thing with swingers and activators and not as steps. I think when you sit there and say, "Oh, the stage is laid out so you can have different ways of movement through the stage," quickly gets tossed away because it's highly unlikely that you're going to find a way that is shorter on steps that people aren't going to naturally gravitate to doing.
Kenny, how would you have shot that stage if you were shooting single stack major?
Literally the exact same way, just one extra reload.
Because you would have had to have.
So I went to the first position. I shot 6,
4, 5, 6 down at the bottom, and then dropped the reload and hammered the one off to the side on the new reload, and then you'd have to come up, right, and you'd go probably 1, 2, 3 walking up, reload, because then you'd have to go steel. I think there was steel, activator, paper. So that's 6
you can
shots.
get 9 in a major gun, right?
Yeah.
So it was 9 in the first position, 9 in the second position, and 6 in the last. So you just have to shoot the gun empty, 2 reload, shoot the gun empty, reload.
Okay.
Yeah, Barney up.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Timing is
like,
that's
what I'm saying. It. Even a single stack gun, that's the best way of shooting that stage, because people are trying to save something, and by trying to save that short time on that stage, they're literally adding extra positions. That's why I was saying, like,
well, but isn't that the
not
funny
to
thing,
hammer
though,
this
Kenny,
home, but the way Tom shot it, Tom literally gave up a second half of free time for realistically nothing. He just gave up free time.
But so in speaking to separation, then we're trying to create separation, and I mean that stage would have created separation, but at the higher level, are what we trying to do? I'm sorry, I'm trying to think about this like out loud, but are we trying to create opportunities of separation for the high-end shooters who would know, even if they shoot it the same way, the disaster factor, what Tom says, opens up their ability to potentially screw themselves. That kind of what you're saying?
Well, that's what I'm saying. To me, that last stage was the only stage of the day that allowed room for separation.
Okay.
Because there was enough difficult shooting, and like I said, to me, there was only one real way, but the shooting was difficult enough that there was room for separation there.
Right.
People that could shoot partials aggressively and fast transitions are going to separate.
Tommy, that's a good visual for the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Here's a reason. Yeah, well, the other thing too is when you look at high-end shooters, it's the time that doesn't really separate them that much. Time's always pretty close. So there's a 3 points.
And that's what I was saying. That stage had a lot of partials, so it came down to who could shoot partials very aggressively.
Yep, I think that.
And aggressively, I mean aiming at A's and shooting at a realistic pace. I mean, anybody can shoot away from the partial, and we're just going to shoot points down.
I think the targets with some black on them, you can definitely make a lot more plain one way or shoot stages have a little bit more separation by bringing out the black on the targets.
Yep.
Sure.
Points. The times. There's once you get to the top, you can't really do it much faster. You can split all the faster. You can run as much as you want. Points. Everyone walks away from a stage really not because of the time, but because of the points. And when it's because of the time. It's because of the misses and reshooting again to get those points back that they did. 3 shots on a piece of steel is 3 shots to try to acquire the points of that piece of steel.
Yeah.
Not where the steel is and how far you had to run to get it. Points. Cool. So, anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing. I got my stage plan called dumb 3 times today, but whatever. I friggin' had a great match.
No,
what do you want?
You shot real well. It was interesting.
It's okay that you had a dumb stage, Tom. You still shot good.
Haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate.
I mean, I can do it one more time if you want.
That should be the name of the show, and then we can have actually decent outro music.
You guys will learn to love the music, all right? You will learn to love it.
No, they will not.
No,
damn it! I will never subject the poor listeners to that crap audio again.
Well, there's 3 other ones we get to try. Anyway, thanks for downloading, listening, and subscribing. Thanks for doing all that other jazz. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking around for an almost 2-hour episode. Thank you for all the Patreon people who get a little bit more of the episode. That does happen. You get a little bit more of the episode. Please join our Patreon. Get $1 $1 a month gets you a longer version of the show, and any other support on top of that, we surely appreciate it. But we do love you guys sharing and spreading the good news. And I think for a long while, we've had no USPSA drama talk on the show, which was kind of nice, and therefore Kenny talked a whole lot more. So anyway, thanks for all that. I'm Tom Nelson for Robert White, Kenny Terry, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Toot toot.